On this Monday night, we're in Humboldt, Saskatchewan. At center ice behind me, a memorial, one small example of an outpouring of compassion in this community and right across the country. On their front porches, on iconic buildings, even on their backs, Canadians are honoring this town, this team. Tonight, as we learn about another tragic turn in this story, a case of mistaken identity, and we'll show you the many generous ways Canadians are responding.
Also, a national icon on what this country means to him as he prepares to sign off a feature interview with Rick Mercer. This is The National.
As this community continues to grapple with grief after 15 members of the Humboldt Broncos junior hockey team lost their lives, an update tonight on those who survived. 12 crash victims remain in hospital. 4 are critical with life-threatening injuries, 4 are in serious condition, and 4 are stable. And we heard from a physician who recounted the scene Friday night.
I can attest as a physician who was on scene with stars. It was truly a team effort. It was a province-wide team effort. Again, I want to say that my heart is with the patients and families affected by this tragedy.
Tragedy as a way of putting life on hold. But for Humboldt, it has also set things in motion, and we're covering it all tonight. What we know about the investigation into the bus crash that shattered lives and tore through this community. How Canadians from across the country are pledging their support with words, deeds, and donations. But first, the cruel confusion of mistaken identity. An error by the coroner left the status of 2 players, one dead, one a survivor, mixed up. With the truth revealed, the grief of one family has been displaced by relief, the hopes of another demolished. Susan Ormiston has the details.
After all the heartache, Xavier Labelle, thought to be gone, is alive. But goalie Parker Tobin, whose family believed had survived, has been dead for days. Tobin's best friend, Brandon Iwanshishin, is stunned.
First, initially, I thought it wasn't true. I thought there's no way they could have mistaken his identity or like that. And then I kind of come to realize of how messed up people were in that crash and how hard it was to identify people. It's just a very, very tough thing to hear, a very tough day to go through right now.
With shock upon shock, the 2 families have asked for privacy. How hard to celebrate a found son when other parents newly grieve. So what happened? Friday, in that disaster, with first responders working frantically to save lives, confirming who was whom with dental records would take too long on a weekend with boys and records from 3 provinces.
Looking at the level of trauma that was involved and trying to determine who is who. A lot of these boys looked alike. They had the blonde hair that was supportive of their team for their playoff run. They're very similar builds.
But the explanations leave more questions than answers. Both families say the Justice Department were involved in identifying sons, one in hospital, another at a makeshift morgue. Even up to last night at Humboldt's vigil, no one knew.
Xavier Labelle.
Labelle counted among the deceased. Tobin, friends believed, was coming out of surgery.
Yesterday, I got a full list from one of my buddies about a broken hip, a broken clavicle, a punctured lung, a brain bleed, a back surgery needed, and all these things. And then yesterday afternoon, he actually going for surgery, and then him coming out of surgery, and we thinking that he was in a stable state and that he's going to recover in some sort of way to live the rest of his life.
But late last night, undisclosed information from health professionals confirmed the young man recovering from surgery was not Tobin, it was Labelle. Families were informed.
I can't even fathom it. I don't think enough could ever be said. All I can do is offer our sincerest apologies, our sincerest condolences and sympathies.
Labelle billeted at a Humboldt home for 2 seasons. Yesterday, Renee Cannon told us she lost 3 players. Today, the billet mom tweeted, "We know our ray of light is someone else's shattering darkness." So it is Xavier Labelle now who fights his way out of crushing injuries in the Royal University Hospital, while another family plans a funeral.
Susan Ormiston is outside the hospital in Saskatoon. And Susan, a mistake like this with so much at stake seems almost inconceivable. Do we know anything about what it's been like for the parents of these two boys?
Not a lot, but we do know the Labelle family was planning a funeral this week. In fact, the mother called CBC last night to request that we use other pictures of her son in our coverage. And we got a small insight into the Tobin family from an unusual source. And Ron McLean was here at the hospital on Sunday, visiting survivors, including standing in the room with the Tobin parents, looking at a young man in a bed they all assumed was Parker Tobin. Here's how he described it.
So imagine the mom and dad and the brother, they don't know that they're not looking at their own boy, that he's so severely cut and hurt that they actually think it's possibly their boy. And I can remember her mom, or Parker, thinking, this is Parker saying, the mom saying, he's beginning to look more like our boy. Can you imagine? And it wasn't, of course, their boy. And the dad saying, when Parker was a child, he had chickenpox, and there was this one scar on his forehead. And thankfully, this 7-inch gash will make that immaterial. And they were having a party tonight at Mark Chartier, the coach's house, to honor the late Xavier Labelle. Well, now they know Labelle's alive. He's got all those injuries. But can you imagine the joy in that one scene, and then the frickin' devastation that I feel for the Tobin family.
It is almost inconceivable. Now, Saskatchewan Justice is saying that all the other deceased and injured people from that bus have been positively identified, hoping they are not raising any false hopes or fears, Ian.
All right, Susan, thank you. The intersection where Friday's deadly crash occurred is marked by a cross made of hockey sticks and a growing pile of flowers. Mourners gathering to pay their respects just yards away, a complex forensics operation. Investigators are scouring the site, trying to determine what happened and why. As Olivia Stefanovich tells us, it could be months before there's a clear answer.
Brian Starkle checks the gear in his truck at the Nipawin, Saskatchewan Fire Hall. He's the fire chief and one of the first people on the scene of Friday evening's crash.
Just a beautiful day, you know, nice and bright and sunny. How could something like this happen?
That is what investigators are still trying to find out. The scale of the response was unprecedented in Saskatchewan. In all, 3 rural volunteer firefighter detachments, over 50 RCMP officers, and more than 24 bystanders helped comfort the injured with blankets and coats. They found the bus and truck laying on its sides, the roof ripped off the bus, packages of peat moss from the tractor trailer everywhere.
You know, you get emotional, of course, and, you know, you're thinking of everybody afterwards, but at the time you didn't really pay attention to that.
So it's going to come down to vehicle maintenance. It's going to come down to perhaps a tear-down inspection of the vehicles.
This expert says a key piece of evidence could be an event data recorder that may have been on the truck and bus. They could have anywhere between 15 seconds upwards to a minute of information available on the vehicle's speed, use of their accelerator pedals, and brakes. There's also a human factor to consider.
There is no teacher-like experience, so how long has that truck driver and the coach bus driver been driving? How familiar are they with the route that they were traveling?
The surviving truck driver could be a crucial witness. It's unclear what, if anything, he can tell investigators. A letter of support asking the public to refrain from blaming the truck driver is circulating online. Even the president of the Nipawin Hawks, the team the Broncos were traveling to face off against, isn't placing blame.
There isn't anybody who ever would have expected their day to turn out like this, right?
Some from the community are congregating in the rink where the Broncos would have played, keeping busy as they wait for answers. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Nipawin, Saskatchewan.
Canadians have opened their hearts to the Humboldt Broncos and their wallets. A GoFundMe page created for the victims and their families has now become the website's biggest campaign in Canadian history. Since Saturday, more than $6 million has been raised by about nearly 83,000 people. GoFundMe says the response is unlike anything it's ever seen. The campaign was started by a pair of friends in Humboldt, Sylvie Kellington and Kaylin Hergott. I caught up with them earlier today.
I got a message from Kaylin online, and she said, after the accident happened, and she said, I need to do something. What can we do? And I remember thinking, like, what can we do? What do you mean you want to do something?
I just felt so helpless, and we were getting information on Facebook, but not a lot, and we knew it was going to be big. And I wanted to do something, and we just ended up talking together, and she kind of said, let's do a GoFundMe. And I went, sure, we can pay for parking or coffee for the parents at the hospital or something.
And then the numbers start rolling in. What was your reaction when you started to see that?
Shock. Like when we hit 1,400, we went, great, we can maybe do more than coffee and parking, you know? And then it hundreds of thousands, and blown away.
Yeah, it's just mind-blowing and overwhelming.
Where does it end?
I don't know. Where does it end? We stopped upping the goal, and it's just continued to grow.
What would you like to see happen with this money?
I think we said from the very beginning, we don't want to be the ones making the decisions. It's going to get handed over to the Broncos, and they will do what they feel is necessary. They know their families better and the team better than we would ever.
Yeah, that's right.
And what's your connection to the team?
I'm not personally related to anyone, but everybody asks me this question, and it just blows me away because this whole community is related to the team. These boys volunteer at our schools. They are patrons at our businesses.
They shoveled sidewalks when we had the last snowstorm. They're everywhere. And I've said a bunch of times, in a community of 6,000, it's not 6 degrees of separation, it's 0 or 1. Everybody knows everybody a little bit, and even if we weren't related to them, we've met them, or our kids have, or something.
I think one of the things the GoFundMe campaign has shown is how many people beyond this town care about this town. And so for people watching across the country, what should they know about Humboldt this week?
That we're strong and that we will definitely need help, but we'll be okay in time, and we appreciate every tweet and every dollar and every effort that people have made across the world to kind of show support.
You may be wondering how much GoFundMe makes on these campaigns. Well, here's how a spokesperson for the website explained it to us. On every donation, about 3% plus 30 cents is collected by outside companies who process the credit card transactions. That is standard in the industry. GoFundMe does not charge a fee. Instead, it relies on donations. It calls them tips to help cover the cost of its ongoing operations. And so this tragedy has inspired people to raise money, but also awareness for an important cause. And Rosie, you're looking at the impact one family's sacrifice has made right across the country.
Yeah, that's right, Ian. It's a story that sort of stood out for us amongst the many fabulous stories that we are hearing emerge from this tragedy. The final wish of Broncos defenseman Logan Boulet. He helped save the lives of 6 people. Boulet survived, though, long enough to donate his organs before he was taken off life support this weekend. Boulet signed his organ donor card when he turned 21 just weeks ago, and he had made his wishes clear to his family.
Across Canada, there's pretty much no hospital that will retrieve an organ against the family's wishes, even if that family member has signed up to be an organ donor. If the family does not consent to it, it typically will not happen.
The tragedy highlights the need to have that important conversation with loved ones about your intent.
Donor identification referral doesn't happen as often as it should.
4,500 people in Canada currently need a life-saving organ transplant. Every year, the wait list grows and hundreds of people die without receiving the treatment they need.
We know that we have to do better in Saskatchewan. We know this saves lives.
In fact, Saskatchewan has some of the worst organ donation rates in the country, about half the Canadian average.
This is a story that's worth telling.
Amy Pilon says she is grateful for Boulet's decision. Pilon's mother and grandfather had a disease that required a double lung transplant. They died while waiting, and Pilon has a similar condition and may need a transplant one day too.
I'm only 22, so it's a very scary thing. I want a family, I want to finish school, I want a career. I don't know what's going to come of those things. I don't know when pulmonary fibrosis is going to come, if it is, but it's something I try not to live my life scared of as much as it does scare me.
It's why the final wish of Logan Boulet means so much to so many. Now, Saskatchewan's transplant program tells us it has seen a significant jump in the number of people signing up to be organ donors just this past weekend. There's also a surge in other provinces, too. That's not the only way, though, Canadians are honoring the memory of the lives they lost. We'll have more on that in the hour. But let's move on to some of the other major stories of the day. And President Donald Trump talking tough, threatening military might in Syria, and lashing out once again at the FBI and the Russia investigation. Both topics came up at a meeting today with military leaders. Officially, the group had gathered to talk Syria. But before that got underway, Trump blasted the FBI for raiding his longtime lawyer's office.
So I just heard that they broke into the office of one of my personal attorneys. It's a disgraceful situation. It's a total witch hunt, an attack on our country in a true sense.
At the center of all that anger, a raid on Michael Cohen's office. I've lost audio. I have no. Trump is also hinting at some fire and fury tonight, saying the U.S. will respond, quote, forcefully to a deadly suspected chemical attack in Syria and possibly within hours. Here's Lindsay Duncombe with that.
It was an atrocious attack. It was horrible.
Donald Trump didn't just blame Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad for the use of chemical weapons. He broadened his condemnation and his threats to Syria's allies.
If it's Russia, if it's Syria, if it's Iran, if it's all of them together, we'll figure it out.
This suspected chemical attack is the latest escalation in the conflict between Russia and the West.
Yes, this is about the actions, the brutal actions of Assad and his regime, but it's also about the backers of that regime. And, of course, Russia is one of those backers.
These are lies.
At an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, Russia said there was no evidence of a chemical weapons attack and accused the U.S. of provoking anti-Russian bias.
Russia could stop this senseless slaughter if it wanted.
The U.S. blamed Russia for blocking action in Syria with its veto power.
Either way, the United States will respond.
It was 1 year ago, almost to the day, Trump ordered 59 Tomahawk missiles to take out a Syrian airbase. That was also in response to a chemical weapons attack. Trump was widely praised for the action, but it did nothing to change the direction of Syria's 8-year civil war. With the help of Russia and Iran, Assad's government is clearly winning. There is some pressure for Trump to deliver an even stronger response. Trump said tonight that response will come soon.
We're going to make a decision tonight or very shortly thereafter.
Just last week, the president said he wants to see American troops out of Syria, a prospect that seems unlikely tonight. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
Ahead tonight on the National, more from Humboldt, Saskatchewan. They took him into their home like he was their own son. I'll sit down with the Billet family as they remember Evan Thomas, one of the young men killed here. The family will share their memories a little later in the show.
But first, a constitutional crisis, an ultimatum from Kinder Morgan, and a not-so-gentle reminder from the Prime Minister. We'll break it all down and what could happen next, rather. And then this guy. He'd likely have something to say about all of that and more. Rick Mercer signs off for the final time tomorrow and tonight. He's our national interview. I don't know if you have a favorite politician. Like, is that possible? I don't know.
I mentioned Nelson Mandela.
Yes, okay.
He was a pretty good one.
Right.
I love to skate fast and I love to be aggressive and just to have fun out there and to know that what you do is affecting the 19 other players on your team and what they do is affecting you and just the big responsibility of it all.
But it's a responsibility Cassie Campbell is used to.
The very moment she was born, she came out with the loudest scream you've ever heard.
She's been playing hockey since she was 6, when her mother Eunice finally gave in.
She whined and carried on in the car. She wanted to play like her brother. And she was ecstatic when she got the chance to play hockey.
Initially, they didn't tell the boys she was a girl. Her mother dressed Cassie at home and then drove her to the games.
They didn't know I was a girl in my first team until I had a swimming party at the end of the year.
And she kind of jumped up a little bit and said, "Yippee, I can wear my new two-piece bathing suit to the party." And all the boys just kind of went, "You're a girl?" Nobody knew she was a girl, and they had voted her most valuable player.
The success has continued from that first team, 8 years on Canada's national team and 4 years ago taking the silver medal at the Olympics in Japan.
In Nagano, my life was kind of, changed instantly when I came home.
Part of that meant a shift from player to product. Media appearances, sponsorship, including the cover of a Cheerios box, and the team of advisors to shepherd her to public appearances.
I just kind of soak it up and, I learn every day and just try to become better.
1999 World Championship.
She's also a hockey hero, an example for the young. Here, her jersey hangs at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Andrew Podniks is a hockey historian and author.
In a lot of ways, you can say that you can compare her to Wayne Gretzky in terms of her ambassadorship for the game. She always makes herself available to the media. She's always she's out in the community.
On the National tonight, a dozen protesters against Kinder Morgan pipeline expansion were in court today, including an NDP MP and Green Party leader Elizabeth May. They were arrested last month on charges of civil contempt while blocking access to the worksite. A BC provincial court judge ruled today the protesters should face criminal charges instead. The Attorney General's office will make that final decision. But the standoff between Alberta and BC over the proposed pipeline has some uttering the words constitutional crisis tonight. Kinder Morgan announced it is suspending non-essential spending and work on the project because of the dispute. And now the Prime Minister has threatened to step in to protect, in his words, Canada's national interest. But as David Cochrane reports, it's not exactly clear how he would do that.
It's a battle over a single pipeline, but the Premier of Alberta says the stakes are much higher than that.
There are those out there who are at this point calling this moment that we are in a constitutional crisis for the country. The reverberations of that will tear at the fabric of Confederation for many, many years to come.
Tearing at the fabric of the country and at the credibility of a Prime Minister who has heavily backed this project.
This is a pipeline in the national interest, and it will get built.
That's been the position, but nobody, including Trudeau, will say exactly how Ottawa will make that happen.
We're considering a broad range of options, and we'll continue to as the days and weeks unfold.
But there aren't many days and weeks left. Kinder Morgan has set May 31st as a potential drop-dead date for the project. The uncertainty caused by this dispute has made shareholders anxious.
Nothing is off the table.
Reassuring Kinder Morgan seems to be the focus right now. Ottawa believes the law and the Constitution is on its side. Protesters and the BC government can stall and delay the pipeline, but they can't stop it. Ottawa just needs to keep Kinder Morgan committed to the project while it stares down its opponents.
This is reckless economic behavior for Canada. And that the consequences are that there will be investor confidence problems.
Well, certainly from my perspective, we're doing exactly what we need to do. The Premier has been very clear. We're standing up for BC's interests.
But BC politicians aren't flinching. The protesters aren't going away, making an appearance just days ago when the Prime Minister visited BC and later Alberta to support the pipeline. Trudeau likes to say the environment and the economy can work together. The problem now is that BC and Alberta won't. David Cochrane, CBC News, Ottawa.
Next on The National, he's been ranting for more than 15 years now, and Rick Mercer's got one more in him for the final episode of his show tomorrow night.
So many Canadians rant and have an opinion. To get to do it on national television every single week, it's a gift. You know, that's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my career, that I get to do that.
Is there anything that in the way you approach your work that changed after the staggering success of Pulp Fiction? Is there something you do different now that you didn't do then? Is there something you want to do now that you didn't then? I mean, what I'm saying is that was that significant a change? Was that a real fork in the road?
No, it was an opportunity to now be able to choose better roles or get scripts at a different level. Say I now get things from the ground floor rather than once they've been conceptualized, picked up, put a director on. I get things now before there's even a director attached to it, or they even have a studio commitment. And it still amazes me that sometimes people do need me to get that kind of commitment from other people. So that changes in that way. But the way I approach the roles and the preparation that I do to make the role happen for me and to make it happen for an audience hasn't changed. That's one of those things that I kind of feel like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I've achieved, I guess, this level of success because of the way that I approach my work. And I think that if I change it, something else will change. Maybe I won't get the same results.
And does that that feeling that some movies need your name to get this person to attach to it, does that allow you to relax? Do you feel yourself allowing yourself to relax a bit and not agonizing?
I'm relaxed anyway.
So you never agonized even before that?
No. I always know that I am going to work for somebody. And whether it's in a lead role or a supporting role, those issues cease to be important to me. It's mostly about picking a story that I think that's interesting and that, number one, I would pay my money to go and see because I'm essentially an audience member. I love movies. I pay my money to go and see them. And when I read a script, I read it like an audience member. Would I sit here and be interested, or do I know what's going to happen on page 75 and I'm only on page 12? So I'm making those kinds of decisions. And going into a role and the kind of people that I'm going to work with, hopefully the work experience is going to be great. I mean, I've had like a great year this year. I looked up one day and I'm doing this great dramatic scene and I look across from me and there's Dustin Hoffman. And I'm saying to myself, oh my God, I'm working with Dustin Hoffman. But I'm in the middle of the scene, so I can't stop doing it to be in awe of that. And I do it, and I get through it. And it's great to look at him and see him looking at me like, that was great. And that gives you another feeling of accomplishment because, I've watched Dustin for years. And then another day you look and there's Robert De Niro, and I'm doing the same thing. It's like, oh my God, that's Robert De Niro, and I'm doing a scene with him, and it's happening. And, then last week, earlier this week, actually, I'm standing on set and I'm doing a scene and I'm talking to this character and the character's reacting and we're having this great scene, and right in the middle of it, I say to myself, oh my God, that's Yoda. Look at that. So I've had a great year. I've gone from Dustin Hoffman to Robert De Niro to Yoda. So things like that mean a lot,
I'm wondering if the the experience of producing Eve's Bayou was such that you wish to repeat it.
Oh yeah, well I have projects that are in development that are short stories that I've optioned or novels that I've had optioned for me that are in development, and some of those scripts are about to come in. And not only will I be in them, I'll be one of the producers. So that's part and parcel of what happens. And I am now actively seeking projects that are specifically for me. And I guess in that comes the job of producing it also.
I don't want to do what a lot of them want to do, and if I want to do something, I'll be the best and I'll get a job at it because that's what I want to do.
I should have looked at that before. You recognize him? Barely. The hair may be toned down, but not the strong opinions. That, my friends, was Rick Mercer. Public humiliation, my friend. Barely in his teens and already commanding an audience. Tomorrow night, though, the cheeky and witty host of the Rick Mercer Report is calling it a day. And as he prepared to step down from his beloved soapbox, we got a chance to ask him a few questions.
I don't know. The phone rang, a horn blew. They said I won a free cruise.
Rick Mercer has a knack for explaining Canada to Canadians.
Come on.
It's that honest take that's made viewers tune in week after week.
That's one.
First on 22 Minutes.
Good evening.
and for the last 15 seasons on the Rick Mercer Report.
Good evening, I'm Rick Mercer. This is the Mercer Report. Nick, is it?
Absolutely.
How are you, Nick? Good
Not
to see
too
you.
bad.
He's traveled the country so often, he's practically our own personal tour guide. But his rants in that well-known alley became his very own color commentary on just about anything.
It is one thing to tip your hat to a culture that you were visiting, but the Trudeaus, they dove into the deep end of the Ganges. They did not come up for air. Well, that is the show for this week.
But his conversation with Canada comes to an end tomorrow, when the Rick Mercer Report signs off for the last time.
Hello? How are you? Nice to see you.
I joined him on set a few days ago for one last chat. You're feeling how about the last show?
I feel a whole bunch of things. You know, it's been a real eye-opener because the last show is a celebration of everything we've done for 15 years. So that means we're going back and we're looking at interviews and clips and things we've done over 15 years that, you know, I just haven't thought of in a very long time. And seeing the scope of them put together makes me feel really good. You know, we created a reel at the beginning of all the pieces. I say, here I am in, you know, Moncton, New Brunswick. Here I am, and we cut all those together. And there's like an hour of just me saying place names in Canada.
So is that the whole special?
No, no, we couldn't just run that. But it's over 500 locations, 500 unique locations that we visited.
How did you get to that point where you said, I want to go to all these weird places that nobody's heard of and nobody goes to? What made you do that in the first place?
That was right off the start. That was part of the idea for the show. You know, I was on This Hour's 22 Minutes for 8 years, and I got to do a bit of traveling on that show, and I always loved that, and I always wanted to go to Nunavut, and there was always a reason not to go to Nunavut, and oh no, it's too expensive, or you know, it's this or it's that, and so when I got this show, one of the very first places we went to was Nunavut. And there was a suggestion that, you know, you're opening the show, it's early in its tenure, you know, the GTA has millions and millions of people, you should shoot in the GTA. And we stuck to our guns, and we said, no, we're going to Nunavut. And I think people responded to that. You know, people have an innate interest in the country, they want to travel the country, they can't always do that, but they get to live vicariously through the show.
And through you.
Yeah.
What about those travels surprised you the most? Because I have a similar job where I get to go places where people wouldn't get to go and see things people wouldn't get to see. What surprised you about some of that?
One of the great things that happened to me when we started, I would show up in a town and a kid would see me and they would know me from television and they'd say like, what are you doing here? Because that's the way kids feel about their town, no matter where what are you doing here? And then like in the second year, I was in the interior of British Columbia in a small town, and this kid said, I knew you'd show up eventually. And I thought, we've done it, we've broken through. That's the show I want. Yeah. And that's probably what I'm the most proud of, really, yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Newfoundland because there is, I mean, obviously you love it. It's a special place for you. But it does seem to be a place that has a lot of talent, musicians, comedians. Why do you think that is?
Well, we don't shut up is one of them. We don't shut up.
Fair.
We like to talk. We have lots of opinions. But there's certainly a lot of us. You know, Tom is there who now hosts Q, and then, you know, and Critch is there from 22 Minutes. And
Speaking of Critch, he sent you a little message.
He did not.
Yes, he did.
When I was in high school, all of St. John's was raving about Rick Mercer's one-man show, Show Me the Button, I'll Push It, or Charles Lynch Must Die. It was sold out, but I volunteered to tear tickets so I could go see it. And that was in 1991, and Rick, I've been watching your rant ever since. I know you're stepping away, but whenever you feel the need to pace and shout about Ottawa, you're welcome back here at your old alma mater. I'll keep the desk warm for you. Congratulations from all of us here at 22 Minutes. Beers on me at the Ship Pub this summer.
That's very nice.
Where's the Ship Pub? Is everyone going to be there this summer?
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
Should I send you with bodyguards?
It's right across the street from the LSPO Hall where I did that show, and where Critch, took tickets.
The thing that you and I have in common is politics, a love of politics, I think, yes? And you took, I don't know if I can say take the piss out of someone, but that's what you were doing most of the time.
Yeah.
Did you ever do it and thought that you stepped over a line, or someone got angry? Certainly lots of people got angry with you, and then you thought maybe that was too much.
There were certainly times. I've always found that cabinet ministers and prime ministers and premiers, people who are in that business, they have a very thick skin.
Yeah.
They actually, it doesn't bother them. It bothers the people around them because, as you know, in Ottawa, every cabinet minister has a number of young people working with them, and those young people think that that cabinet minister is the greatest gift to democracy since Nelson Mandela. And they're convinced. It's only a matter of time until the entire world sees what a great man or woman that person is. And so they're very sensitive, those people are.
Was there anyone that wouldn't play ball that surprised, like you thought, oh, this would help you if you just went, I mean.
You know, over the years, I kind of backed away from it because I decided I didn't want to do that as much anymore. But over the years, we had tremendous access. There was, I remember when Michael Ignatieff said he couldn't come on the show, but then he was interested in seeing samples of my work. Because he was like, 22 what?
And did you send them?
Well, no, we were like, I guess we could dig up samples. I suppose it's on the CBC.
Well, that sums up a lot there.
Yeah. He eventually came on the show, of course.
And how do you feel about political satire? Because I think about when you started 15 years ago, there weren't a million people doing that at that time, not 15 years ago.
No.
And there are now. I think
there's a ton now. And when we started 22 Minutes, it was groundbreaking in a lot of ways. I hate to say that because it sounds like it was groundbreaking.
No, it
but
was.
In this building,
Sure.
people were freaking out because people were saying they look like a news show. They can't look like a news show. People are thinking it's the news, and where did they get that news footage? And some very powerful people let us have that news footage. But there was also very powerful people who were like, this is crossing a line. They cannot be playing with news footage. And there was, so it was groundbreaking. It was exciting. And occasionally we did things that, they became the story themselves. When I launched the Stockwell Day petition for Stockwell Day to change his name to Doris Day.
Now, the petition simply states, we demand that the government of Canada force Stockwell Day to change his first name to Doris.
The week before I decided to do that, we realized This Hour's 22 Minutes didn't have a website or a domain name. Like, it was that long ago. TV shows didn't have websites. So we're like, well, we'll create one of these new fancy websites we're hearing about. And it became a real story inside of an election. That was pretty exciting.
I don't know if you have a favorite politician. Like, is that possible? I don't know.
I mentioned Nelson Mandela.
Yes, okay.
He was a pretty good one.
All right, maybe this guy. Hang on.
Well, the Northern Lights have seen strange sights.
Yes.
But the strangest they ever did see, with the day Bob Rae with Rick Mercer did play on the shores of Lake Killarney. Oh, it was pretty rough to see them both in the buff. Rick Mercer with Bob at his side. But if truth be told, they're both pretty old, and they didn't have much to hide.
That's a long
Rick,
poem. Oh,
what a life we've had together. Oh, I know you haven't seen me in quite a while because, I've returned to my obscurity, which has been so richly deserved, only illuminated occasionally by a visit in the airport or somewhere where a guy will come up to me and say, Bob, nice ass. Thank you, Rick. And thank you, Canada, for watching.
I'd also like to thank you because I had to interview him knowing what his ass looked like. He was a good sport.
He was a good sport. He was a good sport that day.
Yeah.
To get naked and jump in a lake. And at the time, he was running for the leadership of the Liberal Party.
Yeah.
So he had to make a call right there. And he was one of the few people that of that level that I spent time with that came completely alone. There was no
entourage.
There was no entourage. No one to say, no, you are not doing that. He was like, yeah, I'll do it. It's because we didn't catch any fish.
Oh, so you had to do something.
We had to do something.
Oh,
otherwise, people would have looked at us and said, wow, those guys are morons. They're up there in northern Ontario in this beautiful, pristine wilderness. They can't catch a fish.
Too bad we didn't catch any fish.
I know, but that's not what it's about, Bob.
No, what is it? Tell me what it's about.
It's about
what
the
is
memories,
fishing?
Bob.
Oh, the memories.
And we still have to get that one memorable moment.
I have an idea.
Let's talk about the rants.
Okay, here's Pete now to tell you what he's going to be talking about in a couple of seconds.
A real darling of a fruit, clementines, coming up next when midday returns.
Welcome back. As Pete just mentioned, the clementines are back on the shelves in the grocery stores, and he's here now with a word of warning about imposters.
Hello everybody, going to tell you about all the tasty little mandarins called clementines today. A fruit which is imported from North Africa, Morocco and Spain at this time of year. It's absolutely delicious, tasty, the kids love it and you can't go wrong. Now they've got a lovely pebbly orange skin. The way you can tell the Moroccan ones over the Spanish is most of the Moroccan clementines have a little black diamond brand mark called Maroc. Just like Sunkissed, only they put a Maroc on there. And I think the Moroccan ones have got the edge over the Spanish. So if you have the choice, plump for the Moroccan for the same price. A little bit better flavour, a bit on the sweeter side. As you can see, they've got a lovely pebbly orange skin, which is in fact clementines have got the zipper skin, which the kids just love because they can get a hold of them and they can peel them in about 6 seconds flat. And there you've got segments which break away very easy and they're just great to nibble on. Another nice thing about the clementines is they're seedless. They are full of juice, flavour absolutely terrific. Now the thing to watch for this time of year, there's a lot of different mandarins available on the market and quite a lot of them all look very similar. And for example here, we've got the Robinson Tangerine, which is another variety of mandarin. It comes out of Florida, looks very similar to a clementine. The only thing is, as you can see, this one's got seeds in, the flavour's not quite as good and it doesn't peel like a clementine. So providing you know what you're getting, that's fine and dandy, but don't get the two confused. The Robinson Tangerine or what I call the fabulous clementine. This is Pete from Pete's Fruitique for midday. Toodly-doo.
I was going to bring you some burnt bannock, but I brought you something else instead.
Oh, what is this?
A little clementine for you. Thanks. My little clementine.
My little darling.
We can't think of anything else to say. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
That's Rick Mercer, rehearsing his final rant in Graffiti Alley. We were able to follow him while he prepared.
Is the sun killing you?
I was going to say, yeah, can you just take the half a step
This
back?
is one of the challenges of shooting in the alley. See, the sun shits. People have no idea how hard we got it. Now we have to step into a, there we go.
Let's talk about the rants. So I've heard the story. These are the things you write yourself in your office.
Yeah.
You decide what you want to talk about?
Sure, oh, absolutely.
And how did they evolve over the 15 years?
My opinion has certainly evolved.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're more personal now.
Yeah.
I realized over the last number of years that I didn't always have to be funny. I think when I started, they were commentary, but I was a little more focused on being clever. And I realized that wasn't necessarily what was important. And I never lost track of the fact that it was a huge privilege to be able to do, because think of it, we're all, you know, so many Canadians rant and have an opinion. To get to do it on national television every single week, it's a gift. You know, that's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my career, that I get to do that. And in many ways, I view the whole show as wrapped around that moment.
Do you memorize it? I always wondered that.
Oh yeah, I always memorize the rants. Yeah, there's no teleprompter.
Do you do it once?
I have done it once on occasion, but I often have to do it 15, 20 times.
No.
Well, it's an alley, and the alley is also a functioning alley. Delivery trucks go through there, people take shortcuts through there. Art students are taking photos nonstop now because of the artwork that's there. And then there's other trade that goes on in alleys. There's, you know, you have to dodge dead rats. And my cameraman, Don Spence, is going backwards.
Yes, no, that's not fun.
And there's ice, and he trips and falls. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Those rants, though, I think you said they were what you built the show around. I think so, too. They were the parts that people tuned in for, to see what you had to say in a given week. And there were some that were very, very powerful, that really, you know, the voting one resonated really deeply at a moment where people needed maybe to hear that.
It is the conventional wisdom of all political parties that young people will not vote. And the parties, they like it that way. It's why your tuition keeps going up.
The bullying against gay kids.
But you want to say to these kids who are being bullied, you know what? You're right. These are not the best days of your life. In fact, these are probably the worst. But after this, they get better. And then, believe it or not, they get great. Trust me, I'm one of the smartest guys I know.
It turned into a news story. I mean, that was the power of those moments and your voice. Do you grasp that?
Occasionally, you know that one of the rants has really resonated. And I know that they're not all going to resonate like that.
No.
But occasionally, they do resonate. I mean, the anti-bullying rant, it traveled all around the world.
Yeah.
Someone sent me an article and they said, you know, this man in Canada has this to say. Why he's walking around in that alley, we have no idea. Like, they were like, what is he doing? And occasionally I got to rant about something that wasn't in the media at all.
Yeah.
I just thought that maybe people should know about.
3 years ago, the Harper government went to court in a fight with Canadian veterans.
My friend Paul Franklin, you know, has no legs because he lost his legs in Afghanistan, and he was constantly having to prove to Veterans Affairs that he still had no legs.
Yes.
Now, I knew
like
this.
other people too.
Yeah, and I knew this about him because he would tell me about it, and then I would say, can I do something about this? He would say no, because soldiers don't complain. So you're just going to suck it up? Yep, that's just the way it is. And then eventually he said, yeah, okay, you can. You know, the fourth time he had to prove his legs hadn't grown back.
So the next time you bump into an MP and they're telling you how much this government does for veterans, don't take them at their word. Tell them to prove it.
And so I got to rant about that, and then it became a story.
Public policy issue.
And it became a public policy issue. And, you know, the minister stood up and said, we're going to fix this. So now he only has to prove that his legs haven't grown back every 2 years.
Oh, lovely.
Used to be every year. So now he's got, so that's progress.
That's change.
Change you can believe in.
But you do, but we're laughing about it, but those were powerful moments for the country. I really do think that.
Well, thank you very much. You know, there's been so many rants, and I like to think that some of them resonated, and yeah, I feel pretty good about that.
Are you sad at all?
I'm sad, sure. I'm also excited. You know, I would never complain about the show because, you know, look at this. Like, if you want a career in show business or comedy, this is what you want your entire life. When you're a kid, you want a studio like this with your set and these cameras. I mean,
Made for you. Yeah.
This is as good as it gets. And the fact that we've gotten 15 years is tremendous. And I would never complain about it, but it is all encompassing.
Sure.
It takes up a lot of time. And I'm excited about doing other things. I don't know what they are yet, but I'm excited about that.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
And I know you won't go away.
No, where am I going? I'm not retiring.
No.
You know, people keep saying, happy retirement. I'm like, oh, I never said I was retiring.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Cheers. Thank you.
So he isn't retiring. Like, you can watch the last show tomorrow, and I think everybody should, because it's an hour-long look back at those 15 years. But he will do something else. I mean, can you imagine Canada, CBC, other places without some sort of presence of Rick Mercer? He will be around.
So two things. First of all, watching that fantastic piece and the chemistry you guys have, Rosie and Rick, a podcast on CBC, it would be fantastic.
I feel like you're trying to get rid of me from here. Is that possible?
No, not at all. You can juggle both those things. And the second thing is, I mean, what a one-of-a-kind, I mean, can I say, you know, genius may be too strong a word, but what a one-of-a-kind talent. And I kind of feel like it's going to take a little bit of time and distance, and collectively in Canada, we're going to say, we're going to really recognize what we had and what we don't have every week once he's finished with the show. It's, anyway, that was a really nice piece of television, and people can watch it again online. We'll be back in a moment from here in Humboldt, Saskatchewan with tonight's moment, the simple gesture playing out at homes across the country in honor of the lives lost here.
First, there was Archer's shoulder, followed by Gamekeeper's thumb from cocking the trigger too much. Then there was Surfer's knee and Golfer's elbow, and more recently, tennis elbow and bicycle seat neuropathy. And now the latest affliction sweeping North America is arcade arthritis. It's true, arcade arthritis.
Well, you can cause a good deal of inflammation in this joint and this joint simply from coming down almost like the hammer on a piano. And if you get very passionate about it and you're trying to beat yourself, which is oftentimes the problem, then you can cause some inflammation in there.
But arcade arthritis can strike elsewhere, too.
Oftentimes you'll see the player using the joystick doesn't leave it on the table. He'll get a little body English into it, and he'll begin taking his arm around. Now, that's not a serious movement at all. But when you're at white-hot passion, and you're really trying to beat that damn blipper on there, you become very involved. And this is when you may hurt yourself, and you can give your forearm a fairly good twist. Elbow and shoulders can be involved as well.
The way to avoid these problems at the start is to gradually increase your playing time, toning up the body in the process. But that's often easier to say than to do. And if you're hooked, well...
If you had an underlying condition, for example, if you do have an underlying arthritis, this might stir it up with too much activity. The only serious implications, if you put your fist through the screen, that can be rather serious, or I've seen some injuries from throwing it to the floor and it landed on somebody's foot. But those are side effects rather than direct effects.
Yay. We sat in the hospital room and we watched our brother's heartbeat and his breathing and everything.
That heartbeat is now permanently etched on Ryan Gobet, a show of support for his brother Morgan, who was severely injured in the bus crash.
It was all kind of spur of the moment. I actually asked the nurse if we could take a photo of it, and because we're not next to kin, my mom, I told my mom we needed a photo, and she said, why? And I said, I just need one, okay?
Gobet took the picture straight to the tattoo parlor.
We were going to go do it the next day, and I said, oh, let's just do it now then, and yeah, we headed off, and yeah, a few minutes later, we were all inked up.
Does he know?
No, I like to think he knows, or like to think he can feel it, but there's no way for us to know if he knows or not, but you know, it's something that he will know about, and I can't wait to show him.
This, of course, is home ice for the Humboldt Broncos, but the team was often on the road, and many people opened their homes to them. Some players gained more than a place to stay. They gained a second family, like Evan Thomas, who died in the crash. His parents met with his billet family yesterday, went to the room that he stayed in, a space, empty, silent, a sudden shrine.
We wanted them to get his last moments. So we left everything as it was. All of his laundry was over the floor, typical teenager. I mean, his bottles of water, his milk jugs, his you know, the things that he
And
he
she just
did
wanted to come here and get a feel for his last moments before he left and get a feel of his daily rituals. Because, I mean, like she said, you guys took care of my son. He lived in your house, not mine. And it was important for her to know where he sat at the table and, you know, lay in his bed even, go downstairs where he gamed with the boys. These flowers were given to us from Connor Duchesne, who was one of our previous billets about 3 years ago, and he wrote, "You're in our prayers always. Remember how important you are to each and every billet and their families," from Connor Duchesne and family. Which is very touching because we have been in touch since this tragedy with everyone that we've billeted over the last 9 years, and all of them expressing their gratitude and how important billets are in and the community Humboldt was in shaping their lives to make who they are today.
Let's finish with this. What should we remember? What should we know about Evan?
You go ahead.
Evan was a good kid. I can't. This is tragic. It's just not fair. They're all a bunch of young boys with a bright future ahead of them. Living the hockey dream right now. It might have not been their end result as being an NHL hockey player, but nobody deserves this tragedy. So I know how it feels to us as being billets. I can't imagine what the parents are going through. Because you get attached to them.
I think for me, it's in their honor that Humboldt goes on with hockey, no matter what, you know. I mean, it's always going to be known as a place of tragedy, you know, but it's always been known as a place for small town great hockey in the past, and that's what we want to remember for. I mean, any bill that comes in from this point on with us, it's going to be, I'm sure, in the back of their mind, how am I going to ever measure up to what they just lost? We will always love them, we'll miss them, but hey, you know, we wish we could undo what's done, but we can't, so.
On the front porch of the Warford home and on front porches across the country tonight, a poignant tribute to the Humboldt Broncos. And it all started with a tweet. Brian Munns, a reporter with TSN, tweeted out a text from a high school friend in Humboldt asking people to put a hockey stick on their porch in case the boys need it. And he invited others to do the same. That tweet inspired a movement with the hashtag #PutYourSticksOut. We asked Canadians to tell us why they decided to take part. Your stories are our moment of the day.
My name is Ayla Lansbury and I'm from Georgetown, Ontario. This is for the 15 who died in Saskatchewan. If they need a stick, they can use mine.
We're a hockey family from Canada, Ontario. Brought 15 out just to represent each of the lives lost over the weekend.
I'm Josh Fontaine. I'm from Barrie, Ontario. We're pulling for you all. So this one's for the boys right here. Humboldt strong.
My name's Dave Noonan from Sherwood Park, Alberta. I put out these 3 hockey sticks, one for each of our sons, to represent our thoughts and prayers for those who lost loved ones in Friday's tragedy.
We're the Youngs from Ottawa. I grew up in Saskatchewan and we're a hockey family, so we thought we would put some sticks on the front porch to show our support for the Humboldt Broncos.
My name is Scott Basler and this is my son Charlie. We tap our sticks to you. Thumbs up, Humboldt strong.
The sticks on the front porch, the GoFundMe campaign, the avalanche of tweets. There have not been many stories, Rosemary, that I've seen over the years that have touched so many people across the country and people just wanting to find something that they could do.
Yeah, I don't know why those pictures for me, very emotional. I tweeted that out earlier today, just after lunch, overwhelmed by the number of pictures and videos that everyone sent us. We couldn't fit them all in. We've put many, many, many more on our Facebook page.
This has been a tough story to cover, but it's certainly been a privilege to be to this town and to meet all the people here. And even as recently as just about an hour ago, somebody came by, you know, something we talked about last night, and thanked us for being here, even as emotions run high about the grief that so many people are feeling. Last night, those of you who are watching saw that we paid tribute to all 15 of the people killed, the lives they lived, how their loved ones are remembering them. As we told you earlier, there's a new name on the list tonight.